So what are these, where can we get our inspiration? What are our new/old sources of UX inspiration for this new medium? And because it's an artificial reality, look to your reality, your everyday world, for these inspirations when you want to create new or fresh user experiences. So everybody knows this image, right? Right? Everybody? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Design to Everyday Things. So obviously we don't want to design something like that, but because that wouldn't work. But the idea is think about industrial product design, about three-dimensional. You don't interact with a rectangular reality. Your reality is organic and circular. It's all around you. Automotive design, interior design, furniture design, architecture. These are, because again, it's an artificial reality, so these are, let's take our inspirations from our reality and use these to inspire us and how we're going to create exciting new user experiences. So, all right, something you need to be aware of, if you haven't heard, VR can make you sick if you're not careful. So this is, first and foremost, needs to be what you should be concerned about when you're making VR, because it plugs into your brain in a very low-level, instinctual way. A friend of mine who runs VR LA, his name is John Root. He gave a talk at a co-working space up in Santa Monica called Expert Dojo. He was on a panel talk, and he said, with VR, we have figured out the keys to the reptilian brain. So we now know how to make your brain do things on a very sub-instinctual level. And that's exciting, but it's also very powerful and maybe a little dangerous. So motion sickness is a very genuine concern, but there are guidelines that are emerging about how you can handle that, and it has a lot to do with motion design, how your camera moves and how it behaves in virtual reality, frame rate and performance, and also visual design and how the density of the visuals that you're providing. So let's go in a little bit about camera motion design. This is a view frustum, XYZ, this is how cameras move in a three-dimensional space. So one of the things you don't want to do is be very careful about interrupting or interfering with gaze, because it has that one-to-one brain to hardware connection of what you're seeing and having a high frame rate. If you interfere with that, for example, if you shove it from the side, or you're like somebody's like a traditional first-person control scheme, like in Call of Duty, that type of game, is instantly going to make people nauseous. So what's happening now is that teleportation is kind of emerging as this sort of convention for how you navigate inside a virtual space. Any type of camera motion needs to feel user-initiated. You can do little things like you can shake the camera like very, very briefly, but generally speaking, be very, very careful, very, very judicious about what you're doing with the camera. Cockpits or helmet geometry can provide like a stabilizing sensation to users, can increase user comfort. Think about driving in a car. You're moving at very fast speeds, but you have this kind of frame of reference around you that makes you feel like you're grounded and stable. So that can actually help quite a bit in terms of lessening the effects of motion sickness if you do have some of these kind of control schemes or camera designs where it involves a lot of high motion stuff. Fixed head / newspaper versus diegetic UI. So newspaper is kind of a term that has kind of emerged where if you have UI elements everywhere you look, like Iron Man in the Avengers movie. I don't know how this guy saves the world with all this crap on the screen. It just looks really confusing. It looks cool, right? But it just looks really, really confusing. Diegetic UI is a term. Diegetic means coming from the world. So, for example, like if there was a radio in the room here and was playing music, that would be a diegetic source of music. So, what we have found, what research is showing, is that head fixed or newspaper UI doesn't always, but it may break the immersion of this feeling that you're inside this artificial reality, and it may cause discomfort if you have all this kind of distracting stuff that's blocking you trying to look around. Diegetic solutions may be more exploratory. There might be, and diegetic doesn't necessarily mean holographic. I don't want you guys to kind of think about this as like suggest a certain visual style. You can have diegetic UI, for example. I mean, this is an example of a diegetic UI, right? Like any type of posters or billboards or projection screens. These are all diegetic types of UI. And these may be more comfortable as well as more immersive and exploratory. So, it's kind of a neat way to kind of creatively think about how you can present user information to people. And kind of going back to the architecture example, we think about when you walk into a space and where do you think that you should go? What kind of flow are you suggesting to a user inside of a virtual space? You can use that to your advantage to, say, hey, we want to present this type of information to the user as they're coming into this room.